Hello and welcome to this O&GR Modurol video, XK8 with 30's style, the Zephijy. This is video 151 in our series of XK8 videos. In this video we're going to explain how a guy from West Yorkshire changed an XKR into a 30's style hot rod. Now the hot rod is actually inspired by an Efijy concept car and the Ford Lincoln Zephyr. And basically Graham and his mate Steve Cook built this car on a budget in his own garage. Absolutely superb stuff. So if you're interested in this sort of stuff, I've done another car video 139, the Byfield Jaguar V12. Please take a look at that video. I'm going to break this video down into several sections. What was the inspiration, the car, the actual Efijy car, how Steve found his donor car, creating the overall shape, how he made the panels, primer and paint, interior, suspension, and then finally the result and the resulting car. If you're interested in this video, your chances are you're interested in our channel, O&GR Modurol. Please take a look at the channel, and if you like the video, please don't forget to press the thumbs up. It really does make a difference. So the inspiration was the GM Holden Efijy. So basically Graham has made lots of hot rods, about 15 he reckons, or cars he's modified, but he had in his mind from 25 years ago to build a car, one of these hot rods, from a supercar base. And while surfing the internet, he came across the GM Holden Efijy. Now, the GM Holden Efijy is basically a concept car. It was based on the GM Holden original 1953 FJ car. It's an Australian-only car, or own car. It's basically an icon of the Australian automotive industry. About 170,000 of these were built, but it's basically an Australian-built vehicle. So what the Australians had done, they came up with this concept to celebrate the 50th anniversary of that particular model. They created a scale, 30% scale design studio model, and then a full-scale clay model before they're eventually, with the finished clay, but they're able to get the project approval to actually build this one-off celebration car. The actual car was built out of glass-reinforced plastic, basically wooden reinforced GRP molds were made out of the clay model, and then these were actually removed from the clay, the roof and tail, and a full fiberglass body was built around those molds of the clay to produce the finished body. The car structure, basically the drive chain, chassis and body were all separate, so it was able to have this fiberglass body. The chassis and drivetrain were based on a C6 Corvette chassis, lengthened. Obviously, the result was an FJ-based hot rod with a very modern GM Holden supercar performance. It was actually finished in a paint called Soprano Purple to maintain that 30's gangster look. The engine put in there was a LS2 supercharged 6-litre V8 producing about 645 bhp, so it's obviously got some go. It also had some stop because there was 380mm discs with 6-pot Harrop calipers up front. It had a custom tannin leather interior with a 4-speed automatic, and it really was a credit to the GM Holden Efijy designer Richard Falazzo, and it was finished in about 2005. So the seed was sown then. So Graham had seen this car and he said, that's the car I want, that's the car I need to build. So him and his friend, Steve Cook, went about trying to do it. So the first job was to find a base vehicle with a correct side profile. So it just so happened he had one in mind. That was the Jaguar XK8 X100. The hunt was on, and within days Graham had spotted on Tinterweb, at just the right price and not too far, was a 4.2 supercharged XKR model. Bonus. It's a good, it's no good building basically one of these hot rods without actually the guts as well as the looks. So in picking the 4.2 litre XKR, you're getting 400 bhp, so it can talk the talk and it can also walk the walk. So basically, Graham and his mate jumped in a car, rushed off to do a deal. They did a bit of haggling, and they actually came back with a car on the trailer. The guy sold it to him, actually delivered it as well. It did need a bit of tidying up and some body work, which hence why he got a bit of a bonus price. But the strip down started basically straight away. Off came the complete front end work to the bulkhead. The rear was cut away to the rear window, leaving the filler cap in position. Lots of panels were removed to help raise money. Actually, they almost paid for the car itself, because Jaguar spares, as we all know, aren't cheap. So it helped raise some money for the project. So next then was actually creating the overall shape. Now, in order to do this, the guys used expanded foam. So very much like the Holden guys had used clay, Graham and Steve used expanded foam. The car is built around the wheels and tyres, but unfortunately they were going to use some special wheels, and they didn't have them at that point. They ordered them, but they didn't have them. So there were some billet polished smoothies that were in order from America. They needed these blanks, so they actually stuck some blanks on to the side of the car, to the old wheels, so they could try and gauge the shape of the new wheels and the arches. It basically worked, and due to the size of the rears, they had to cut out the old wheel tub and make new fiberglass ones. The complete front end was formed in gun-grade polyethylene foam, the stuff builders used to fix windows and filling holes. The thickness in some areas is getting up to 18 inches thick. It's built up in two-inch layers. Any thicker and it doesn't really cure to the core. So you can imagine this took a lot of time. I think it's about 50 cans of this expanded foam they used. Once it's cured, they set about cutting the basic shape with hacksaws. And you could see that they didn't have any CAD data. They weren't machining this or anything like, as I say, the Holden guys had some measurement devices to make sure everything. They were doing it all by hand, all by eye with hand tools. The same process was used for the rear of the car. And basically what the guys were doing, they were applying this foam and then styling it. And in order to check the styling, they moved the car outside, looked at it for a long while with lots of tea, I believe, checked its lines, and then did modifications, took it back inside, make some more changes, etc. So now this happened continuously over and over again till the guys got some shapes they were happy with. Now, there's a few technical details they had to overcome. One of the main problems when using a modern car, trying to create a front to resemble a 30s or a 40s style car, is the width of the bulkhead and the windscreen. From the off, the idea of the car was not to cut into the integral structure, thus weakening it and keeping it very much an XKR underneath. It kept things easier, but it also threw up these obstacles. To make the bonnet and the front wings blend into the bulkhead without causing this wedge effect, they had to wrap the hood round the A-pillars and down into the wings. This was done quite effectively. There's also the difficulty of managing the dip, basically between the bonnet edge and the wing tops. Around the suspension leg tops. Obviously, you can't move that, so they had to work around it. Again, lots of standing, pointing, drinking of more tea in order to get that solved. Finally, they blended in the new mini headlamps, and then shaped and reshaped again and again and again. Another issue they had was the windscreen was actually too deep for, again, a 30s, 40s style car. So they actually lifted the bonnet in order to visually cut the windscreen depth. On the filler cap, again, they kept its original position because they didn't want to mess about with that too much. It's a tad high, but it seemed to work okay. The roof line itself was the wrong shape. It's okay for the XKR, X100, but it's actually 5 inches too flat for a 30 style car. So they reprofiled that using MDF strips. Again, they applied foam, shaped it, back into the road for more visual inspection, pointing, chatting, drinking more tea. This actually then made it quite apparent the side window issue, or the driver's side window. There was sort of a sag in the middle of the car. It was badly wrong. When viewed from the side, the car looked like it was sagging in the middle, and it was the window line that was dipping to the front of the door. But by sticking some masking tape along the side line of the glass, lifting it 2 inches to the bonnet, the dip was rectified, as you can see here. To combat this irregularity, they made a glass section and added that and blended it to the top of the door. This altered the glass line for the better, making it sharper and flow into the hood. To keep the panels the same on both sides, cardboard templates were taken every 4 inches along the car, and these were then transferred to the other side. Basic, but it works. It's great stuff. Now they got the finished shape. Everything was done at eye to this point. They did then, once everything was sanded down, they got to the point where they were happy, and then they applied all over the foam 11 tins of 5 kilo of body filler. Of course, a lot of body filler. These guys like doing a lot of handwork. This was all sanded down so it could resemble the finished car, and they can take a really good look at it. They found out later it wasn't actually strictly necessary. And then they applied. They probably wouldn't do that again, they were saying. Then they applied the sealer coat, and you can see it really does resemble, closely resemble the finished car now. Now it's time to start. Then they applied a release coat to the fiberglass to help it release. Section 3 then, making the panels. It was time to start making the outer panels, fiberglassing. They'd done this job before many times, but not on this scale. It was big, very big, but 2 coats of 600 GSM matte covered the entire car. It looked finished, well, not quite, but a long way off as it happens. All the panels had to come off. They figured the best cuts would remove them was the boat tail in one, roof in one, rear arches separately, and the front in one piece. But before this procedure, timber framing was made up and stuck on the panels, roof, back panel and front, etc. This would help keep everything straight when taken off the car, and give them a flat edge to sit them down on whilst they worked on the floor upside down. They all came off easily, but they were seriously tacked from the inside with grinders and such to clean them up of all contaminants. Then another 3 layers of matting were added, making them much more substantial. Once they got all the panels off, they had to remove all the foam and the MDF before they could remount the panels onto the car. They marked out the new boot lid and cut that out. The rebates were formed, and they added internal skin, so it's all looked nice and posh in there. They used the front clamshell design, sort of E-type style. It was hung at the front using the chassis ends and some home fabricated brackets. It seemed to work a treat, as at the rear, the original bonnet fasteners were bonded on and worked a treat too. They got two large rubber bobbins were used on the trailing edges of the bonnet sides to stop the. You can see them in the middle of the picture there for the bonnet to slam down to. They actually then sat about with shaping some new inner liners to stop all the road dirt from entering the engine bay. Obviously, the car is a lot wider now, which needed a 4-inch lip on the underside of the wheel arches. But once the front is down, you can see there this completely separate GRP panel for the inner. It's a really quality job. Once the bonnet is down, the gaps fit very nicely, and Graham and Steve, I'm sure, pride themselves on the panel gaps of this car. At this stage, the wheels had arrived, and after a little machining, they bolted right on, allowing the wheel arches to be shaped around them and to put all the little return edges on the panel work. So it's not a raw fiberglass edge. It's got a real nice professional finish to all the exposed fiberglass edges. This is the point where actually the added another design feature in the passenger and driver's door. The top of the bonnet sort of stopped at the top of the door, and they've now added a feature now where it sweeps diagonally across the door to help with styling, and it now has a more sweeping line of the bonnet flowing through the door skin. The custom mirrors were also bonded onto OEM mountings, and they used the existing internals. The fiberglass trims were made up to fit around the windscreen, which blended into the new roof shape. Into the glass. It also helped to narrow the glass and thicken the A-post trims. They also made grille openings and a rear window. The woven mesh used in the grills was for making MDF two-part press, which pressed a step into the design to follow the shape of the apertures. This attention to detail takes a lot of time, but it's necessary for the finish of the car to look like it came from the OEM. Even to the point where it's on the lift, basically, if you're looking underneath, you want to still see a quality car, not something that's a bit raggedy around the edges. And this is a strategy Graham and Steve have used all along. And just to, there's a few unusual things at the back end. The exhaust trim is actually made from bolted dishes, stainless steel bolted dishes, and it has quite high-tech LED rear lights. There's also it's a bit of number plate furniture, which is reminiscent of the Efijy car. And spot the real, there's a little rear spoiler there. I'm not sure where that's come from. If you can spot where it is, very interesting. They've used OEM hinges for the boot lid to keep everything as standard as possible. Works great, as you can see there. So then they got round to the section 6 then, the primer and the paint. So all the fiddly work was done, and the job lot was then sanded down. It was ready now to accept a skim of filler. So what the guys decided to do was leave it in the capable hands of Richard Wilson, a very reputable body shop, and he actually did an excellent job leveling and taking it to the primer state. Unfortunately, he wasn't. Then they left it then for 8 months before it was to let it settle, see if there's any movement or cracking, and then it was primed again. Unfortunately, when it was time to paint, Richard wasn't available to do it, and so they chose another painter. The pinholes were then filled, another primer applied, light dust coat, checked the paint wasn't going to react, and then they had the top coat added. I believe it's metallic with lacquer. It was supposed to be a pucker job. I think the guys weren't 100% happy with it, but it was good enough, to be honest, and they could move on with it. When the car came out of the body shop, when Graham went to see the body shop, he says he was really just amazed how well it looked. It surpassed his expectation. You can see just from this photograph, it must have been a great, a great sight to see your baby actually arrive like that. It then went back to Graham's garage for all the detail work left to be done, finishing off. So then we come to section 6, the interior. So the interior had a complete revamp in cream leather, and in the back a new rear window was refined with painted fiberglass surround and new headlining material to match. The wood veneer dash panels have all been painted body colour, as were the steering wheel and footwell side panels. The centre console was made to cover the leather, was made and covered in leather to conceal the stereo and switches to make it a bit more 30 style. The door panels had to be altered at the tops to match the raised window curve and trimmed back in leather. Obviously, the Jaguar mirrors had been changed in favour of some of their own design ones using Jaguar motors and wiring. They actually added the the Zephijy emblem onto the steering wheel. Nice little touch, and it looks like a real tidy finished interior. Well done, lads. Section 7 then, the suspension. Graham had to employ the service of another friend who had a garage where he could use the lift to get the car up in the air to access all the suspension, etc. There's nothing standard air ride wise for a Jaguar XK8, XKR. But Graham always wanted the car to be on air ride, so he got his wish, although it wasn't straightforward. Nothing was standard available, so everything had to be made to fit. So with a box of new parts, he set out making airbags to fit the front and the rear struts. You can see the front struts fitted. Does look quite a tidy job, to be honest. Those are the front struts they used. They used two twin tanks. It's a lot of air, and they were mounted in the rear wings. It's all controlled via Airlift Performance 3P system. And he says thanks to Andy at 351 Engineering for use of his lift and his welding skills. So that's his mate with the lift. The result then, what a car. Ironically, because he used a standard XKR as a base, he didn't need any special test. He just took it for his MOT. First time it actually passed as a slightly modified, Jaguar XKR. The front end resembles a Lincoln Zephyr, hence the name Zephijy. So it's half Zephyr, half Efijy. If you're not familiar, this is the Ford Lincoln Zephyr from 1939. So you've got a 1930s styling car with modern performance from a 400 bhp XKR base. He did modify the exhaust as per all our XK8 enthusiasts to give it a bit more rumble. I believe it's stage 1 and 2. When you look underneath, I love this because this is, it's a bit like my car. It's as good underneath as it is on top. And that really does show attention to detail. And I think you just about make out the stage 1 and stage 2 exhaust mod on the back end there. The wheels then, or the overall car, is 5.5 inches wider. He's used centerline smoothies, actually 20 inch by 13 on the rear with a massive 395 millimeter wide tyres. Wow, that is wide. It's a real credit to its builders, Graham Slater on the left there and Steve Cook on the right, to their skills. And it's won lots of attention, awards. It's been in magazines, on the internet, etc. And I really like to thank Graham for talking with us and letting us do this little video. The Zephijy now is at home with another one of Graham's hot rods. As I say, he's built lots of them, 15 cars actually modified. Would he sell it? What is it worth in 2021? Well, I don't know. Would you sell a car you spent almost 3 years building and cost quite a lot of money? So, everything has its price. And Graham is a family man with lots of conflicting priorities, much like myself. So who knows? But it's a complete quality one-off special. thank you very much. That's the complete video. Hopefully I've covered most of the things anybody want to know about the car. I'd like to thank Graham Slater for sharing those photographs of his build and talking to about the car. Fascinating stuff. If you've got a special X100, we really want to feature your car. Maybe not as extreme as the Zephijy, but maybe you've got something that's modified. We'd really like to feature it because that's what this channel is all about. Please contact us. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed that. Please like, comment, share and subscribe if you'd like to see more XK8 videos.